Okay, we can't bring you that report yet, but we're focusing on, you remember that comment yesterday when Transparency International spoke about what's going on with the military? That's where we're starting today. Let's go to Abuja.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. I have with me Salahudeen Hashim, who is the Senior Program Officer at CISLAC, which is the National Chapter of Transparency International. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, this definitely is a damning report. It says that corrupt military officials have been able to benefit from the conflict through the creation of fake defense contracts. Now, you have heard the response of the military chiefs who say that that was before, not now. Is this a recent report, and what years were you covering? Yeah, the report actually covered 5 years, and that spanned up until 2015. And basically, I had thought that the military would have taken a lot of time to look into that report and understand that we were not particularly referring to current situation at the military defense architecture. But of course, from the part of the country where I come from, we have a balance that particularly speaks to the fact that when a child sleeps and falls, that particular child simply gets up and move on. But when an elder, sleeps, he wants to find out exactly what has happened. And that was exactly what our report seeks to do. At 53, and as a nation, we have attained maturity. And of course, most of the institutions in the country, particularly, even older than the nation in itself. So we had thought that it is important that we sit back and do some kind of analysis of what actually transpired within those period. And that would also help us to develop some level of prescription as to how to respond to them. Within what period again? I think when you used to come, what did you say from?
It was looking at 2010 to 2015.
5 years.
5 years.
Period.
Okay. And we had thought that we'd be able to do diagnose the problem, be able to come up with prescription, and of course the report even offered to help and provide some assistance, in terms of how structural and institutional strengthening can actually help to reduce some of these leakages. Okay. So I had thought that, but it is a tragedy of our national discourse when people pick a report and the next thing they want to do is to debunk the entire content thereof. And of course, that is not helping us as a nation.
Is that debunking it? Because what they're saying is that may have happened in the past. You're aware that the Nigerian government is probing, reports that monies meant for arms did not go to what they were meant for. Absolutely.
It is in line with the entire happening in that particular activity that has actually informed the design of this particular report. We had thought that it is important that as a nation, we also should begin to develop some kind of local solution to our own problems. And that is why we felt that developing that kind of report will particularly help the military to see where the gaps exist. And if they know where these gaps exist, it helps them to begin to find a response mechanism that will help them to resolve this problem going forward. Okay, and yes, they have said that it happened in the past, and we are not saying yes, it is happening at the moment. But of course, there are still issues that is still currently ongoing that they still need to also attend to, and that is why we felt that looking at this report holistically will simply help them to understand how to respond and manage internal mechanisms that would help them strengthen these institutions. And of course, we have talked about the issue of procurement. This report particularly looked at various typologies, apparently. It looks at political, looks like the operations, looked at the issue that has to do with finances, and the issue that relates to the IPPI. Recently, the military themselves conducted an IPPIS, and they said over 40,000 ghost workers were discovered. I mean, that is actually more recent. And that is why we are saying that all they need to do is to take this report, look at its content, and see how they can improve in terms of structure. The report is not indicting anybody, it's not accusing anybody, it's not pointing accusing fingers, but there's a need for them to look at the need for them to use this report as a way of improving on the current gains that they are actually getting. Yes, we are very quick to commend the military for the gains they have recorded in recent past. In the Northeast, they have captured territories, they have been able to technically demobilize terrorists, and that is commendable. But of course, in going forward, and after that, what do you do? Going forward, how do you further ensure that these gains are consolidated? And that is why we say, look, these are the things that you need to do to be able to ensure that your systems and structures are completely strengthened, and that we were not in any way trying to undermine the effort of the military so far.
Well, we will talk about the gaps, because you say that certain gaps still exist, and it will be good for them to look at the report to see how it is that these gaps can be filled. But then you must also appreciate that when a report comes out in 2017, when the military thinks that they're doing something right this time around, and even though the report is talking about 2010 to 2015, not a lot of people will be patient to see the particular period which you're talking about, and might assume that this is what is currently going on. So do you appreciate the concern of the military when this sort of report comes out 2 years after a period that it's supposed to be looking at?
Oh, yeah. Well, I had thought that because a day before we actually launched that report, we visited the military headquarters, and we gave them a copy of the report, and we told them that, well, these were issues that we have identified, and that we were even willing to work with them at a leadership day to be able to do some kind of laboratory analysis of what had happened in the past, look at the symptoms, and find a durable cure for what is seemed to be happening. Yes, I had thought that yes, they would have responded, but the manner with which they respond simply shows the typical nature of Nigerian institutions.
How did they respond?
I mean, yesterday I had read some of the comments that said, well, it was meant to block support for the fight against terrorism, or it was meant to undermine the effort of the military so far. And that is not exactly what the report targeted. The report simply wants the military to identify some of these leakages that are ongoing, that will help them to further block them, help them to strengthen the institutions the better, help them to get better in terms of how they respond to issues that are ongoing within the system. So it's actually an issue that is speaking to process accountability. If processes, professional accountability are particularly espoused, it helps everybody to. When I read the response, and it particularly baffled me. It baffled me because I had thought that it would be an opportunity for the military to say, look, we knew this thing had happened. Yes, this report by no means has any public information pointed that recent scam had actually occurred. But this thing had happened in the past. We have new leadership, we have new command, because the command structure from the commander-in-chief clearly targets the direction it's going, and that is the fight against corruption. And of course, every institution are particularly keen into this. And of course, you knew that this thing had happened in the past. How do you prevent future reoccurrence of this particular situation? And that is exactly what you are talking about.
So what are some of the gaps that still exist that you think need to be filled?
We still think that procurement in the military is still opportunistic. And we still think that issue that deals with staff welfare, and issue that deals with contracting. Yes, there's a marginal and a paradigm shift in the issue of contract, because it is now government-to-government negotiation. So third party and companies that are particularly benefiting from this scam are not recently are not there anymore. So that is actually an improvement upon what they were doing in the past. So if you have eliminated third parties in the negotiation process, it then means that you have been able to block certain level of leakages. So we still think that they should be able to strengthen procurement. And thank God the National Assembly has also looked at the Public Procurement Act, and they have said, okay, we need to amend this act to also be able to accommodate the military spendings.